Healing from a breakup can be one of the hardest things you ever have to do emotionally. Whether it's unexpected or expected, whether it's wanted or unwanted, it can still turn your world upside down. But of course, even more so if it was unwanted and unexpected. Those are the worst kinds. It's also particularly hard if this is your first breakup, like serious breakup, like adult style breakup, or if you were particularly hopeful that this really was your person and you were especially bonded. That can be extra hard too. So some symptoms that you might have of a breakup are, unsurprisingly, a lot of crying, isolating. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just want to be in your room. Or maybe you want to talk too much. You want to talk about that all the time to your people, and they're kind of sick of hearing about it. Or maybe another symptom would be scrolling on your phone too much, stalking your ex online, or noticing what everyone else is doing with their relationships. Maybe it's condemning yourself, going over your flaws and the criticisms that your ex said about you. Or if they didn't say criticisms, if they gave you that it's not you, it's me, you think, oh, that's not true. There's 1,000 things wrong with me. So maybe it's condemning yourself for all these imagined flaws, or maybe real flaws, who knows? It's questioning your worth, wondering if you're ever going to be loved by anybody. It's wondering if all men or women or whatever are never going to appreciate you and see what you have to offer. It's fantasizing about being alone forever. And then also sometimes being angry at other people for having what you seem to think are such perfect relationships. And also for not understanding what you're going through. And so on and so on. It's a pretty dark, tough, ugly place to be in, and none of us like it. But we typically have to go through it a few times in our lives to find our person. So it's a rite of passage, it's normal, it's part of life, and we have to find a way to get through it as healthy and happy as possible. So then how do we move forward after a breakup? How do you get from all these symptoms, all this sad scrolling on the phone and crying, or over focusing on it with your friends or condemning yourself, all these emotions? How do you get from that to being a healed person, being a stable person, being back to normal, but even better of a person? We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to take just a moment and ask you to subscribe and to like this video. My name is Shara Ogilvie, and I am sharing things I've learned from my 15 plus years being a mental health therapist. And I've also had to work and learn on myself. And I know much of what I know because I have also been a hurt and confused person at times in my life. And it takes a lot to heal. And I want to help you. So I invite you to follow my content and see if I can be helpful to you in some way. Now, let's go back to this topic of how do you heal and move forward from that breakup. Okay, the two things that I suggest that you do is balance as you're healing and trying to move forward, really to balance between these two pieces that I call moving forward and being still. These are two modes that you can be in that you kind of toggle between and balance as you're healing. Let's talk a little bit about what moving forward looks like, and then we'll talk about what sitting still looks like. Moving forward is kind of like the mindset that I call the best revenge is success mode. It's that making something of yourself mode. It's getting out there and kicking butt mode. Some things that look like moving forward would include working out, cleaning your room, learning something new, setting goals, getting outside, making new friends or connecting with old ones, upping your game at work, finding service projects and doing them, cooking something new, trying new restaurants, kickboxing, hiking, buying a new outfit, reassessing your dietary goals, and many other good things, just to name a few. But really focusing on being your best, taking care of you, and and mingling with people, being out there and being with people. So moving on in a really, really good way. And I call it the best revenge is success mode because obviously these are very attractive qualities. Someone that's out there moving on with their life, making a great life for themselves. It's not just about showing your ex that they missed out. But if you want to think of it that way, I don't care. If you want to think about it that way, if it motivates you, that's fine. But you want to just move forward and become a better version of yourself. You will feel more like you respect yourself and you will feel more attractive to someone future. It's not going to hurt you for sure. It's all very good. The other mode that you want to balance between the moving forward is the being still mode. And I'm going to take a moment and say why both of these are important, and then we'll describe being still. It's important to do both because if you get stuck in one, there's dangers. If all you did was the move forward and get her done mode, you would be at risk for not processing your emotions. If all you did was the be still mode, then you would be at risk of not actually moving on. And both of those are needed. You need to process your emotions and you also need to move forward in a healthy way because all of life is about learning the lesson and moving on to the next thing. So, all right, let's talk about what being still looks like. Again, being mindful that moving forward or being still, both of them have their place and it's a balance between the two that we're looking for. Being still, it looks like mindfully crying, journaling about your feelings, journaling about your story, talking with a friend about your hurts, asking a parent how they survived a breakup, watching a sad movie with a fuzzy blanket and a quart of ice cream, meditating, looking up how to heal from a breakup online, napping, deep breathing exercises, reading books on relationships, and talking to a therapist about your breakup. These are all lovely ways of being still and being with your heartbreak and giving it the time that it needs to process. Now, the difference between, let's talk for a second about the difference between mindfully being still and processing versus being stuck. Being stuck is more like what you would consider like wallowing. That's where all you focus on is the way you were done wrong by your ex and how you're a victim. And that does not help you very much. So wallowing has kind of a sense of, I don't want to move forward. I want to prove that I was wronged. That intentionality will not serve you. But I will say that sometimes we need a couple of days to be there. And so I think it can be functional to have a day or two where all you want to do is blame your ex and say that you're a victim. If you want to do that mindfully, saying, I'm going to take a day or two and do that. And then know that you do need to leave that behind at some point fairly soon, because it will make all kinds of new problems in your life as you deceive yourself that other people control your future, or that other people are somehow out to get you, or that you're some kind of unique victim. You don't want to fall into that. So again, if you want to take a day or two or a few hours to feel that way, do it mindfully, reminding yourself that you're choosing to wallow, and then pivot over to being still and sitting with the grief mindfully, which would look like these items I said on the list, like journaling about your feelings, talking to a therapist, napping, meditating, watching a sad movie, things that help you to process the sadness and acknowledge what happened, but without falling into the I'm an angry victim mode. All right, so just as a reminder, we want to toggle between these two modes. And how do you know when it's time to move forward and when it's time to be still? I would say that, not knowing you personally, of course, I don't know the exact balance, but roughly speaking, you just need some of both. And life is going to dictate some of that for you. If you have a job and you're in school, you're going to need to do quite a bit of the moving forward. There might not be a lot of time for that sitting still, but you want to budget some time to actually mindfully journal and talk to a friend or family member or a therapist. Because if you just get home from work and school and then just scroll your phone thinking you're processing, you're not. You're numbing. And so you want to just be very aware to use some time to process that. Or let's say you have a lot more spare time, then you would be able to spend a little more of this perhaps journaling or talking to somebody. But if you overdo that, then it's going to start to define you, like, oh, the breakup is you and this is all you're doing. So again, even if life allows you a bigger budget of that, just notice how it affects you to spend too much time in that. Usually no more than an hour a day or maybe a couple of processing is necessary, but some days may vary. The whole point again is just spend time in both and try to be intuitive with that balance. All right, I hope this has been a useful discussion for you. Breakups are really hard, but hopefully with some of these techniques and tips, this can help you move along. And feel free to leave in your comments if there's some things you've learned that I haven't mentioned, or if there's something I have mentioned that particularly struck a chord with you. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.